Rain throwing cromwells and AA on pencils, moving the chaos that sniper checks bring. These are a few of those ASL things. Chapters and chapters of tables and rules. The ultimate war game goes way beyond cool. Just like those fighters with bombs under wing, and seeming C1 those SSRs bring. Rural or urban, cross streets and quick dashes. When playing night rules, remember gun flashes. Winter offenses that last throughout spring. These are a few of those ASF things. When my squad breaks, when my love stinks, when I'm rolling back, I simply remember those ASL things, and then I don't feel so bad.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Two Half Squads, the one and only podcast dedicated 100%. I'm going to say that with confidence.
It's up to
The
Adam.
greatest game in the world, Advanced Squad Leader. I'm Jeff.
I'll try.
I'm Dave, and this is...
I'm Adam from Australia.
Adam from Australia,
Way
not
down
to be
under.
confused with all the Adams from all those other places.
That's right.
So
There's only one.
we're really glad to have you on the show, Adam. This is a real great pleasure.
It's an honor to be invited. As I was saying before, I've listened from the very first episode, and I've loved every minute.
Well, that's really nice. That shows great dedication to a great game, and we're flattered to be part of it. So, from Australia. So what time, right now it's about around 7 o'clock in Chicago, Illinois. What time is it where you are?
Just after 10 a.m.
Okay. So where are you in Australia-ish?
I'm in Canberra,
Okay.
and we've got a local games club, and I've got a game tonight, just 10 minutes from home.
Oh, no kidding.
Well, then we don't want to hold you up. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah.
Roll low and rally well.
Yes, that's right. So
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us how did you get into ASL and gaming and that kind of thing?
Well, like most people on the show, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll keep it brief. When I was 8, 9, 10, early teens, I loved playing with little toy soldiers, one 1/35th scale, and that moved on to 1/76, 1/72nd scale, and then model tanks and model planes. But I'm a person, even back then, who liked structure and organization. And if I'm good at anything, that's one of the things I'm good at. But these little toy soldiers didn't have any of that. It was very chaotic. And my father was a police officer, and we went over to another police officer's house for a barbecue dinner one night. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 14 at the time. And this officer played war games. And in their spare room, I saw a map on a table and stacks of counters. And it might have been something like an old strategy and tactics Panzer Group Guderian or Operation Typhoon, one of those sort of things. And I looked at it and I said, what is that? And he told me, and I thought, here it is. I have found the thing that I have to do to bring order to these battles. But my being a teenager, everything was attack. Everyone attacks all the time. There are no defensive battles. So even though I like history, I couldn't apply it to the game. But the other police officer saw I liked that kind of thing, and he gave me a copy of Strategy and Tactics issue 100, which was a NATO Warsaw Pact game. He said, "Here, this is a spare. You might like this kind of thing." And I did. I loved it. And so I had a few games with him because he was a family friend. And I was really frustrated at all the supply rules. I was always getting surrounded and out of supply because I was always attacking, because that's what you do. And after a while, he's like, "Oh, look, I've got this other game. You might like it." And I've still got it on the shelf behind me. And it was Squad Leader. He said, "You might like this one. There aren't any supply rules." And I love the tactical element to it. And so after mucking around with that for a bit, I found out about ASL. And I've been playing for 30 years now. Love it.
That's fantastic.
And you look awfully young to have been playing for 30 years.
Well, I haven't played well for 30 years. I've just played for 30 years.
Yeah, we still don't play well.
Now, usually when we talk to somebody, they'll say they got into wargaming at an early age like you did. And then they left for 20 years or 25 years to have kids and raise a family and stuff. And now they're getting back to the game or whatever it might be. Did you have one of those big dropouts, or have you been pretty constant in it this whole time?
No, I had 1 year where I didn't play a game, but only 1 year. And that was basically because my regular opponent moved overseas. And then he moved back and we're off again. But I've played close to 900 games. I wanted to hit 1,000 games before I turned 50, but that's in December. Oh. And I'm not going to get there, but at least I've tried.
Yeah, I think I'm on 13 something now, Jeff. We haven't updated that for a while.
Well, all those games that you played with where you played one of the rules incorrectly, those don't count.
Oh, so I'm at 0 then.
Yeah, that's right. And so somewhere along the line, you found a gaming group to be with?
Yeah, so where I lived outside of Sydney, it took quite a while to get into Sydney to the Paddington Bears Club, which is fairly well known. Mm-hmm. And most of my working career, I've been a shift worker, so I haven't always had that correct day or the correct hour of the day to be able to get to the club. So I played a lot of email games back before Vassal, when you'd set up the board on the table next to the computer and you'd type in your moves, hit enter 10 times so that the opponent couldn't see, and there'd be reaction time, and then you type in the next text that unit goes to, and back and forth and back and forth. So that was long and tedious, but it was a way of playing the game. And now I've probably played more Vassal than anything else, some live, some email, but ASL in general has brought me in contact with people all over the world, and that's one of the great things about it.
Yeah, it is a beautiful thing.
Indeed, yeah.
And then at some point, did you let the other games go? Any of the other games that you were playing, that you had been playing, or do you dabble, or is it all ASL now?
Well, I did give all my non-ASL games to the family friend who sort of introduced me to wargaming. And that concerned him a bit, but I said, no, I'm keeping all my ASL, don't worry about that. And then about 10 years ago, I started getting into those games a little bit more again. So I do play some of the Strategy and Tactics magazine games, usually from, I guess, the early 80s, late 70s. So Kharkov, Sicily, Race for Messina, those sort of games. But I also play some modern ones like the SCS series. Basically, if you put Normandy on a game, I'll have a serious look at it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you had a
So,
local
yeah, go on.
store, game store you said you played at?
Yeah, that's where we play. They don't stock war games as such. So there's a lot of card games, a lot of Warhammer, that kind of things, paints for miniatures,
Yeah.
terrain, but not ASL.
And then are you still modeling at all?
I've never been a model. No, I've seen the level of detail that people are able to achieve with models, and that is totally beyond my skill level. So the few that I've got on the shelves now are the pre-assembled, pre-painted ones.
Okay.
Nice and simple.
Yeah. I still paint a ton of miniatures, as you probably know from listening, but when I entered one in the contest at Gen Con, the first day, it was just a few other entries in there, and Jeff and I thought, oh, mine looks pretty good. And by the next day, all the professionals had put their painted stuff in there. Oh. So I gave up trying to become a master painter. I'm like, what do I paint for? My enjoyment and to game. So
Absolutely.
I don't have to win any contests. I don't have to put 7 layers of highlighting on it too. It looks perfectly
and then
good.
all the weathering and everything else
Yeah.
that goes into it.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But
And
so
then,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to ask if you have done any schooling in formal schooling in history.
I've always loved history. I've always been a big reader, always owned lots of books, no matter what. And I did, when I was a police officer, I had to do a bachelor's to get a promotion. And I thought, well, now I've got a bachelor's, how about I do something that I want to do, not that I have to do. And I saw an advertisement for a master's in military history in the magazine of the Australian War Memorial. And I thought, right, I've been reading all these books for so many years. I think I know a lot about it, but how about I test myself properly against a professional, so to speak. And so I signed up to the Masters, got accepted, even though I didn't have a base history degree. And I got my Masters in military history. So I was very happy with that. It was run through our Defence Academy here in Canberra. And I ran it by correspondence because I've never been in the military. So I wasn't in classes with all the people in uniform who were doing the same course. But yeah, I loved it. It was quite expensive, so lucky that I loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very proud to achieve that.
That's fantastic.
It is indeed. And of course, then you became author.
Yeah, I wrote 2 books. The first one was about an Australian Spitfire squadron that served in Normandy. And most people don't know about the Australian contribution to Normandy. I'd read a lot about Normandy and I hadn't heard of these particular fellows. It was 453 Squadron. They flew Spitfires. And I thought, well, if I don't know about them, and that's a little bit arrogant, then maybe no one else does either. Yes. So how about I write a book? And I did. And actually this coming weekend, I'm going to visit that squadron. They exist currently. To give a presentation at an officers' dinner.
Oh, wow. Very, very
They've
cool.
invited me down.
So they exist currently as a modern squadron?
Yeah, they're not a fighter squadron anymore.
Oh, I see.
Because obviously during wartime, Air Force expands and you have more of certain things than others. They're, I guess in civilian terms, they're air traffic controllers now. But a squadron is just a way of organizing the Air Force into groups, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So we're just at a time, it seems like, when obviously the World War II veterans are becoming harder and harder to find, but were you able to track down and interview anybody from the squadron?
From that squadron, no. By the time I'd had the idea to write it, they were all gone. but I was able to find a lot of family members. And one of the best parts of the writing experience was to meet the different members of the families, and for them to share their photos and the documents that they'd kept that belonged to their father or their grandfather. And a few of them actually said, Adam, if Dad was here today, he would have loved to have talked to you. And as just a guy who wrote a book, that really means a lot. That's very special to me.
What was the most challenging parts of that writing, researching?
Well, since I had a policing background, I treated it like an investigation. So each document or each source of information, whether it was a photo or written record, to me was a witness, and you challenge the witnesses. Does this statement here match this one here? Does it contradict it? Does it support it? Is it a little bit different? So testing the different information sources against each other was a bit of a challenge. But also, some people try and help, and unfortunately, what they're trying to tell you is incorrect. And I had one person sent me an email to say, here is a picture of the Spitfire that my dad flew during the Battle of Britain. Unfortunately, the Battle of Britain occurred in 1940. Their father arrived in the UK in 1942. And the Spitfire that was in the photo was built in 1944. So as much as they believed what they had told me to be true, none of it was. So trying to gently educate people and say, actually, that can be a real challenge, because they are trying to help you and support you in your work. And, you know, they will tell friends, oh, hey, you know, there's a fellow named Adam, he's writing a book with my grandfather in it, whatever. To sort of let that person down in a kind way and sort of educate them at the same time can be a real challenge. Because it's not like they'd come to me boasting of something. They thought they were being helpful. So and they've got to do it the right way to maintain their support.
Yeah, they're not even deliberately trying to deceive you at all.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
I've had that, but not this person.
Oh, yeah. You have had that.
Yeah. So people like to tell stories and think that their relative was the greatest and that kind of thing. And I've had people tell me stories with them not knowing that I'd actually read the historical record. And I just let them tell their story and said, okay, thanks, that was very interesting, knowing the whole time that what they said was wrong. But I'm not really counting them amongst my greatest supporters, so not a loss to me.
Yeah, interesting. You think they're just trying to, well, like people,
Who knows?
Who knows? Even
what
right,
motivates people.
Yeah, even at school, you'd find like an employee that you always knew was kind of telling a tall tale a little bit.
Oh,
you know. And I always was like, why does this person do that so much? You know, I mean, I know I have like embellished a story because it's funny, and then you're telling it, and it's like you exaggerate a little. So then I told him this, and then you're like, well, actually, I didn't tell him that. Later on, I thought I should have told him that. And I don't know why I'm lying about that right now. I could just say, I wish I thought of saying this, you know, to embellish this. Jeff keeps telling people that he's won all the ASL tournaments, but everyone knows he is not, because
who's going to ask?
There are records.
Nobody's going to challenge me on that one.
Yeah, he only tells non-gamers that information.
Oh, of course.
So
what speaking of tournaments, what's the tournament scene like down there?
Naturally it dropped off during COVID, but it's slowly coming back. So there was one in Melbourne around Anzac Day, which is April, and CanCon would be our biggest one in January. But CanCon is a multi-game event, so whether it's Warhammer, whether it's Settlers of Catan or some other role-playing game or ASL, it's a massive event. So ASL is just a very small part of that, but it's there.
And do you attend those?
I went to CanCon once, no fault of the ASL organisers, but at the time it was basically a big hot shed because there's a metal structure in Australia in the summer with, to me at least, inadequate air conditioning. Apparently it's improved over the years. So I went to that once. I went to Paddington a couple of times when I lived closer to Sydney. But I've been to Cleveland for Oktoberfest, I think 6 or 7 times now. And that really is the place to be for ASL.
Yeah, right. And so tell us about ASL. What do you like to play? What do you like to read? I just want to mention, I started reading a book called Invasion Rabal. Is that how it's pronounced? Rabal?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not
Invasion
Rabal.
Rabal by Bruce. What is his name? Bruce Gamble. Are you familiar with this trilogy?
I don't know that one.
Oh,
I've
okay.
got
There's
few
3 books by
related books.
Bruce Gamble, and it's about the Lark Force, the Forgotten Garrison on Rabal, or at
Yeah,
Rabal.
they didn't fare so well.
No, I just started the first book, and it's very, very interesting. But I want to say I know very little about Australia's participation in World War. Well, not very little, but not enough about it, So I started to bone up on it a little bit, just because I knew we were going to have this discussion. So what have you liked to read?
Well, most of what I read, I mean, a lot of ASL players have a lot of books. So me saying I've got a lot of books doesn't make me unique amongst ASL players.
Yeah.
But most of what I read is Second World War. I just finished history of the US 92nd Infantry Division the other week. And they were I think one of the 2 only African-American divisions in the war. And they spent most of their time in Italy.
Right.
But towards the end of the war, they weren't even only African-American because they switched out some regiments because of the perceived performance issue. That was very interesting. So I got some scenario outlines from that book, and I just grab off the shelf whatever interests me at the time or whatever might build on something I've just finished, and I read that. But otherwise, I like the old classics like Jules Verne or Star Wars novels. I've got a lot of Star Wars novels.
Oh,
yeah. I thought I saw a Mandalorian helmet behind you. Is that what we're seeing on the bookshelf?
Oh,
yes.
Or
So
Boba.
that's a Boba Fett helmet.
It's Boba. Yeah, Boba.
I do have a life-size one that I can wear. And I've had some of the actors sign it, which was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's really no good for using the computer. You've got no peripheral vision. So
yeah,
keep turning it. It's terrible. But it looks good.
I'll bet. So have you designed ASL scenarios? Is that what you implied?
Yeah, so MMP have published 2.
Oh.
And one of them was in a journal, one was in an operations magazine.
What were the titles of them?
Yeah, so J155, I think it was called It's Hardly Fair. And that actually got a mention on one of your episodes. And I put a star on the episode and a note in the spreadsheet so that I know that it got a mention, and the people who played it liked it. So that's always the positive. And I have had 3 published with Dispatches from the Bunker. And they've just released a best of bunker pack as a PDF, and one of those was in that as well. So that was a good feeling.
And what actions did you pick for that one, or for those?
So the dispatches from the bunker pack, 3 scenarios revolving around the British 78th Division in Tamoli on the northeastern coast of Italy, sort of towards the Yugoslavia side. One from the Journal was on the fringes of Market Garden, and the one in Operations Magazine that was in Italy as well. But I'm working on a scenario pack with a friend from New Zealand, Carl Noguera, who you know quite well.
Oh, yeah.
He's our project manager. So we're running a 2-stage process where Dale, my friend in New Zealand, we will design and play test the scenarios to a certain point, and then we'll hand them over to Carl, and he'll run through a second round, and then give us the final product. Say, hey, is this all right? We'll say yes or no, or change this word, or you missed this or that. Very rare with Carl for that to happen. And hopefully, maybe halfway through or the end of next year, we'll have a pack out.
Who's going to publish that? Do you know yet, or?
That's through Carl and the Yankee ASL group.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be a PDF pack, no maps, no counters, just scenarios the way I guess it used to be done. Because we're just 2 guys with some ideas who want to design scenarios that are fun to play. And, we'll let all the, MMP and Bounding Fire and LFT, all the rest, do the maps and counters.
Yeah, and at some point
they do a good enough job.
Yeah, and I don't know how many more maps I need.
Yeah.
Although those LFT desert ones were good. Jeff, that's the show we recorded and didn't have the audio, so we will get to that after we put your show up on the air.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those Steve Swan had some really neat stuff in there, but yeah, indeed.
Yeah. And Steve's working on a lot of stuff. I listened to that episode. Yeah. There's so much.
Yes.
I think we might have to clone him.
Yeah, I think we'll have to have him back on, Jeff, probably after we cover those boards and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So did you play the Reef Tarawa game on Vessel?
Yes. I think for counter density and fumbling fingers, Vassal is the way to go for the Blood Reef Tarawa campaign. We played campaign 3. And when I listened to your episode, and I can't remember who was on each side, but one side did the whole Japanese setup, and then the other side did the bombardment, and the Japanese surrendered.
On the first,
that really broke my ASL heart, because there was so much effort.
That was Jeff's game.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And they had forgotten, and now I've forgotten what rule what setup rule that they had missed, and so they were way more exposed, I think, than they had intended to be. But it was pretty shocking that after the whatever it was, hour and a half of initial bombardment, maybe a couple hours, that they just said, "Oh, we did that wrong." Yeah. And we said, "Well, do you want to reset it?" No, let's. And they just started putting it away, just like I just saw it melting away right before my eyes. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, my friend and I in New Zealand, Daryl, a different New Zealand friend, had talked about it for a while, and he wanted to have a go. And I thought, all right, well, if you're prepared to do the setup, I'll attack. And he did. And I calculated it was about 75 hours worth of gaming we got out of it.
Wow.
And that was all on Vassal, all live. And tell you what, the Americans do have some personal morale checks to take in that. Because, hit, kill, there go your LVTs.
Yes.
That can be a real shock to the system. But we got through about 4 campaign days, and then I hit the CVP cap as the Americans, the Japanese didn't have a lot left, but that's just the way it went. It was a hard fought battle in ASL terms and real terms, not to make light of that.
Well, yeah.
Yes,
but yeah, a very enjoyable sort of bucket list item as far as ASL goes.
And then you got onto the land and everything too, right? And fought up inland and.
Yeah, so I nearly cut the island in two, but I'd come sort of either side of the pier, but I'd been more successful on the top side of the pier rather than the bottom. Then my reinforcements came in from the top, and I was pushing down quite well and almost cut across the middle. But those anti-tank guns with a 3 rate of fire, they are very deadly against those LVTs crawling through the water.
Yeah. And so 75 hours, that's considerable, but would you play it again?
I think it's worth another go. Certainly,
you're young.
The amount of effort that goes into it. But having said that, there is so much to play now, and there are so many products to look forward to that people are talking about, and this has been in the works and that's in the works. And even if you think about something like Festung Budapest, I think it was 10 years worth of work to get that product. All the people producing these things is putting so much time and effort into it. To not play it, it is almost a disservice to their effort.
Yes. And when something gets released from MMP, how long does it take to get to Australia, to where you get it in your hands?
Well, because of shipping, and this is pre-COVID as well, I wait until there are a few products, and then I'll buy a couple to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, for each product you buy, you're paying the equivalent in shipping, if not more.
Okay.
So you got to make it sort of economical.
So you order it directly from MMP?
No, usually, well, pre-COVID it was Gamers Armory. Okay. Because I could get MMP, I could LFT, Schwerpunkt, a few scenario packs. I've gone through Ritterkrieg as well, if you want to ding the bell. Ritterkrieg was always very good.
Always very good, yeah. He's no longer a sponsor, but we'll ring the bell.
Oh, we certainly will.
Because he's a very good guy.
Do you have the bell there, Jeff? Mine's still in the other room. Every show, we're like, ring the bell. Now we're at my house.
Is it, Dave?
And I'm like, oh, it's still in the other room. Oh, it's still in the other room.
You can add a sound effect later.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah. So I just go wherever the best deal is at the time for the products that I want. That usually works.
Well, we would encourage you to, as long as we're talking about sponsors, we would encourage you to try out Bounding Fire Productions if you haven't. If you order anything from Bounding Fire Productions, tell them the 2 Half Squad sent you, and they'll send it to you free anywhere in the world. And
no, yeah. And Dave and I are still playing through Operation Neptune, so we'll be covering another one of those games soon. They're excellent.
Yeah, I've got a few BFP games going at the moment. They make good stuff.
And then you like the historical stuff. Did you travel also? I think I'm going to Europe in the spring. So this is my chance to maybe get to Normandy. My son's in Spain.
Yep.
So for a year. So we'll do the spring visit. And my wife's pointing out, maybe you want to jump into Europe while you can still walk, Dave. Yeah. Nice. I thought of taking my dad, of course, and then by the time I said we should seriously get some tickets and go, my dad said, Dave, I can't get on and off these buses and go walking all these places anymore. So, well, I could push in a chair or something, but he said, I'm just too tired now, so yeah. I regret that, but I think we're going to do it in spring. What kind of travel have you done?
Well, my wife has been very supportive of my hobbies because I only have a couple. I'm very much a love it or leave it sort of person. So, and obviously ASL, I love it. So in Cleveland one year, I met a mate from New Zealand, Daryl. I hadn't met him before, but for whatever reason, we paired up and had a game in Cleveland. And that was about 2003. And because we're similar time zones, we've been playing ever since. So he's been a friend for 20 years, all because I went to Cleveland and met him at Oktoberfest. So Oktoberfest has been really good to me. Because it's a long way for us to go there, sometimes he'll come here for 4 or 5 days. It's only a couple of hours flight. Or I'll go to his house and we'll have a 2-man Oktoberfest, whether, it doesn't have to be in October, but we might play 8-10 scenarios, or, a game from Strategy and Tactics, a game of Second Fleet, and a bit of ASL. And, we've had a lot of games. Probably 25% of where I've played is against Daryl. He usually wins 2/3 of all games, but hey, we're good mates, and in the end, that doesn't really matter.
No,
Right.
But we have had some international adventures together because we're both nerds. We both love books and going to battlefields and that sort of thing. So we went to the Solomons a few years ago. We did a battlefield tour there with a company. So we went to Guadalcanal. We had a boat over to Gavutu Tanambogo, which is now in Rising Sun. And we posed on the wharf of Gavutu Tanambogo with Dan Dolan's map. And sent that to Chaz, and they put that in, I think, Journal 10.
Yeah, right.
Journal 10.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we're just a couple of nerds having a good time overseas, and our wives know we're not getting drunk and chasing women because we're looking at bunkers, we're looking at tanks, we're saying, oh, this building here is actually this on the Kempf Group Piper map, and so we've been to Normandy, to Arnhem, Guadalcanal, like I've said. We've driven the Kempf Group Piper route from Germany through Belgium.
Wow.
A Dutch friend, Henny, he's come over to spend some time with us, and we'll have the KGP maps, and I'll always got a little notebook so I can write, this next photo will be hex K12 viewed from hex H13, and then take the photo, because when you get home, it'd just be a bunch of photos of buildings.
Right.
But because I make all those little notes, I can say, all right, this is definitely this building from this angle, and this is what this looks like, and this is how steep this level 1 hill is, and all that kind of thing. And it really brings to life what you're seeing on a piece of paper. And it's a great experience, and a great way to share friendship and ASL, and whatever else comes from that.
Are there, do you have any plans for the next venture somewhere?
I do. I've actually spent the last week planning a trip to Italy. That probably won't happen for a couple of years yet, but what I want to do is arrive in Rome, then go down the coast from Anzio to Salerno, down to Messina on Sicily, around Sicily, and then back up across the sole of the boot, so to speak, to Taranto, then up to Tamoli, where my scenario designs occurred, to Ortona, which is a module that may or may not be out by that time, across through the middle, past Monte Cassino, back to Rome, and then home. And that's probably about 2.5 weeks. Daryl's very keen to go as well, so if that occurs in a couple of years, then we've got time to save for it.
And you may not realize this, but there are things other than World War II sites to see in Italy. You may want to make that 3 weeks
The
instead of 2.
Colosseum, the Michelangelos.
Oh yeah, I forgot
I've heard
about
of
that.
those things.
Yes.
Yeah, Laura, my wife, suggesting we get on that Europe thing soon. She was like, "Well, Germany, right? Because I'm Kleinschmidt's German and
Hmm.
the war stuff." But I she said, "So you want to get to Germany?" I said, "Well, actually, Italy too." And then she's like, "What? Italy? Why?" You know, and I think my daughter was there when she goes, "Well, Mom, remember Dave loves Romans. He loves ancient Romans. He has miniature armies
Yeah.
of Romans. He has a whole outfit of Romans that I have that I would wear at this Bethlehem marketplace thing at church, you know, the full blown gear and I play the chariot race game.
Yep.
And then I'm an art historian in a way, right? I went through art school.
Hmm.
So there's all of that going on. And then you got the Vatican stuff.
Yeah.
So
There
boy,
certainly is a lot.
a lot of things to do.
Well, if I ever win lottery, I'll take an extra week. But yeah, I mean, there's so much to do, and having friends who are interested in that, in a general historical sense, but also in an ASL sense, is just a great way to spend time with your friends. And I'm lucky that my wife supports my interest in saying it's okay to go to Cleveland and play games for 10 days, going to Normandy and getting up at 2 a.m. so you can be on the beach at 3:30 to see the sunrise on the 6th of June and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what greater support could I have for my hobby?
Yep, that's very, very true. So the anything else about ASL? Like you prefer the style of playing, or do you like to defend, or you do like the historicals?
Yes, I certainly do like the historicals. I guess, well, I'll declare right now that I win about 40% of the time. Because obviously there are people who win a lot, and for everyone who wins a lot, there's got to be someone who loses to them. That's me. That person is me. Hi, everyone. But 40% isn't how often I have a good time. Because I would say 95% is how often I have a good time.
Yeah.
And that really is the importance. Because ASL, whether it's face-to-face across a table or live on Vassal or whatever else, it's a social interaction. It's a social experience. And, going to Cleveland has, helped me meet people from all over. You might have a game and then you go out to dinner, 4 or 5 people you've never met before, you all go out to dinner. By the end of dinner, you're best mates. So it really is good from that point of view. As far as style of play, I would describe my style as too much Montgomery, not enough Patton. So I'm always waiting for air support I don't have, or extra artillery that isn't on the scenario card. And then I'll line everyone up and, oh, hang on, I should have done that 2 turns ago and now I've lost.
Yeah, running out of time.
Yeah, so I need to be more aggressive, and I'm aware of that. Sometimes I will just charge a tank through or run an armored car around, and then suddenly the other side can't retreat because they've got line of sight to an enemy unit and they're stuck in place. So then I can get in and close with them more effectively. But it's something that I have to overcome, and I have to overcome it each time. But that's just me and how I play. But I have a good time. And tonight, when I go to the local club, win or lose, 95% chance I'll have a good time. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure. I remember one time I got actually angry and I apologized to my opponent because he's a good friend. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm actually angry. And that means I'm being a jerk, but I let this game get to me. And so that pretty sure has only happened out of the 1,300 plus games. I think really just that one time. Other times, like Dave, Tim, and I will be playing these Bounding Fire games, and then, he'll be frustrated. Like he gave one up just in turn 1 or turn 2 last time we played, because I went right through his minefields. Nobody broke, right? I rolled 5 for all the morale checks. And then I hit the wire. And of course, I rolled under it right away.
Yeah.
So you watch that nice defensive line stop nobody on your right flank.
Yeah.
And then I'm up into his big mortars, the 82,
Yeah.
what is 85s. And I'm jumping in there, knocking them out and stuff. And the left side too. I hit his dummies and blew through, and there's still a long way to go, but he was just like, I think I'm done. Is that okay if I'm done? And I'm like, that's okay. Because I'll take the win, and we got the next one coming, which is the attack on the other side of Operation Neptune. I forget the city that is, but crossing the river there. So let's just go to the next one. But he goes, oh, but I really had fun. I go, no, I can tell you're not mad, you're frustrated, but I could tell you had fun. We always do.
And I mean, ASL with the heated battle rules, and you don't have absolute control over everything that happens. And then you add the dice into that. You don't, you might form a perfect fire group to take out a unit, and if you get that unit broken or eliminated, that opens the flank and away you go. And it doesn't happen. And that's just part of the chaos of battle, whether, it's a real life situation with a real battle, or, playing with cardboard like we do. And sometimes you just have to laugh. And it can be absolute chaos, and you might be trash talking with your best mate. Oh, these guys are yours. They're going to be my prisoners in a minute, and all that sort of thing. And none of it happens, and you just have to laugh. I had a game in the last 12 months where it was a game on Vassal. One squad on Daryl's side created 3 heroes.
Wow.
And I'm like, surely there must be a half squad by now.
Right. There's only so many people in there.
Absolutely. I was like, where are these people coming from? That's not fair. But that's all part of the back and forth that creates the life around the game. And I remember one year in Cleveland, I was playing against my Dutch mate Henny. He's been a friend for probably over 20 years now. He had a broken German conscript half squad on a hill, and I had a T-34. I thought, right, I'm going to overrun these guys. Can't possibly fail to win. They'll break. They'll be off the board. One less unit to worry about. I do an overrun. It's a morale check of some sort. He gets a heat of battle, so he rallies. And then he pulls out a Panzerfaust and blows my tank up.
Oh yeah, because the Germans.
Where's the logic in that? That wasn't supposed to happen. But of course, it's ASL and it can happen.
And it can happen.
What you do is you both, you sit there and you laugh, because it's a game and it's a social experience. You're spending time with friends. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it's the gaming thing. My wife realized very early was we had friends' wives would ask her, is Dave having another game night? Because like my husband doesn't go out. He just comes home, works, comes home, watches a little news, whatever, goes to bed, works, comes home. And some of the wives are like, I want him to get out and be with friends, So it's just great for that. Indeed. Well, but wrapping up here, I guess. Do you well, Adam, before that, I see you have a Jets football outfit on?
New York Jets.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Do you know
there's a little story that goes with that.
Yeah.
We're on a trip to the US, and I wanted to see an American football game. So let's go. We're staying in New York, so fine. I'm a Jets fan. So I went and bought some Jets gear, and they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. Since that day, it should be the other way around, but I have disliked the Philadelphia Eagles and loved the Jets.
That's how it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, for a sport, for me, I like American football. It's a little bit ASL in that you can set up for what you think will be a perfect execution. But, you know, the other side does one thing, destroys your plan, and you got to try something else next time.
And now Aaron Rodgers, my hated quarterback, I think he's with the Jets. I think they're playing
He is,
tonight.
yeah.
I think they're
And he
playing
got a
right
haircut
now.
as well. So hopefully he'll do better this season.
No, the Bears are not going to. It was horrendous to watch the first Bears game. Sorry to bore you, Jeff.
Yeah, I knew there was a game yesterday. That's a start.
Oh, it was a
Once they
nightmare.
didn't play at noon on the first game of the season. Normally they do, but I know
Yes.
yesterday they played afternoon game. That's all I
Yes,
know.
indeed. Yep.
Yeah.
So, should we wrap it up then, gentlemen?
Yeah, I guess so. Adam, is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to say, or any shout outs to anybody, or?
Well, I'd like to shout out to you guys because I've been listening from episode number 1. I've loved ASL all this time. You've helped maintain that enthusiasm. You've spread the enthusiasm. You educate people. You entertain people. You share some of yourselves as well. ASL has given me a lot through, you know, friendship and gaming and holidays and whatever else. So thank you to both for providing us with all the additional love around ASL, and whether or not someone wants to mention you on their website, I think is a disservice. Say no more.
You have been listening a long time.
Say no more. Yeah. Well, that's very nice. Thank you for those nice
It
words.
is, and actually it is, because there's a lot of times as we've said on the air before, you kind of feel you're in isolation, and then you see what everyone else is now doing on YouTube, and you're like, boy, they're just amazing, you know, and then it makes you question what you do. But I think what we do is kind of like this, the conversation and having great guests like you on, and we've been so blessed with all these guys coming on the show.
Well, to me, you're the original and best.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We did get in a little early because we're so old.
And we appreciate you being on. And if you can pass on the invitation, you know, if you know any ASLers that would like to be on the show, even if they just want to come on for 10 minutes, or somebody wants to come on and promote their tournament or something.
Yeah. Like maybe the people in charge of the gaming clubs too would be good to talk to there. So
yeah.
If you're all listening,
I'll mention it tonight.
Okay, yes. That would be great.
Yeah, so thanks again, and we hope that you will continue to roll low.
And rally well, but not when you're playing us.
That's right, lads.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
Bye.
It has been great. Thank you.